Okay, welcome to Lesson 21, Module 4 of 8th grade math here, and graphing linear equations in two variables. Okay, in the past couple weeks we've been learning about how to write equations in slope-intercept form for different types of graphs. And all the graphs have had something in common in them. They've all had, they've all crossed the y-axis at a nice even number. But the difference now is that all the graphs that we're going to see today are not going to cross at a nice even number. They're going to cross somewhere in the middle. And in that case, we have to use algebra to help us write an equation for that line. So I'm going to go through one of each type of question that you're going to be expected to know how to do by the end of the lesson, and then if you need extra help later, please come in and see me. Okay, so we're going to start on page 124, and we're going to do the first example, example 1. And we want to write an equation for the line that is graphed here. Now, if you recall, every equation that we write has been in the form y equals mx plus b, where m we're going to replace with a number that we find as slope, and b we're going to replace with our y-intercept. So those two are going to end up getting replaced with numbers in the end. Now, to write the equation, we're going to start by finding slope. Okay, to find slope from a graph, we have to use something called rise over run. And in order to do that, we have to find a couple of nice even points. So I'm going to choose -2, 2. And I'm going to choose 5, 4 here. And then I'm going to use rise over run to determine my slope. So I'm going to start over here because it's furthest left. And my rise would be up 1, 2. So my rise is 2. And my run then would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So my slope is now 2 over 7. That is what we're going to put in right here in our equation when we write our answer. So I'm just going to save this for later. Okay? The second thing I need to write my equation is a y-intercept. Now you can estimate it's a 2 point something, 2.6 maybe, but we want to be accurate. So to do that, we need to use algebra. And here's how you do it. You're going to use our general format here, y equals m times x plus b. And we're going to end up replacing the first 3 variables with numbers. And the numbers are going to come from our dot right here. So I had students write some notes here. Our first step is going to be to use one of our dots or use our ordered pair. So I'm going to choose 5, 4. It doesn't matter which one you choose, but I'm going to choose this one. So for x, I'm going to use 5, and for y, I'm going to use 4. So that's step 1. I'm going to replace this y then with 4 equals the m, remember we just found that as our slope, 2 over 7 times my x is 5 plus b. So the only one that's not replaced is the b. Our second step then is always going to be to multiply or to simplify. And so there's always going to be these 2 numbers right here that we need to simplify, multiply them together. So 2/7 times 5, you can either do that in a calculator and get a decimal, or you can keep the fraction. It doesn't really matter at this point because we're looking for this y-intercept. So I'm going to use the decimal version. When I multiply that, 2/7 times 5 gives you 1.43, and I'm rounding, but that's okay. So there's step 2 is to multiply. And then step 3 then is going to be to either add or subtract. It depends on your problem, the number that you have. You want to actually get rid of that number because we want to solve for b. So you're going to do the opposite of what you see there. So the opposite of 1.43 is minus 1.43. So I'm going to subtract that here to get rid of it. and I'm going to subtract it over on this side so that I can get an answer for b. So now I have b equals 4 minus 1.43 is 2.57. Okay, so that's our second piece of information. That's what we need right here. So now that you have everything you need, you can write your final answer because it says give the linear equation. Well, our linear equation is going to be this, and I'm going to write it over the graph. Our equation is going to be now y equals, and instead of m, I have a slope 2/7, x plus, and instead of b, now I have a y-intercept that I found, 2.57, and this is your final answer. So for all of these problems, it's the same exact process every single time. Now, we're going to skip a little bit ahead here because there are some variations of these problems in here. So we're going to actually skip to page 127 so that we can hit the other types of problems that you can expect. So starting with number 3 then on that page, you'll instantly notice that for number 3, there's no line that goes through points -4, 5, and 2, 3. Again, our final answer we're looking for is in the form y equals mx plus b. So we need to find our slope and a y-intercept. So let's start with slope. If you don't have a graph, but you do have 2 ordered pairs, you can use the formula for slope. So you may recall in the past lesson, our formula for slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, okay? And where does that come from? That comes from up here. This is x1, because that's the first x, y1, x2, y2. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and substitute our numbers in. y2 minus y1 is going to be 3 minus 5 on the top, on our numerator. x2 is 2 minus x1 of -4 on our denominator. Well, 3 minus 5 is -2, and 2 minus -4 is actually +6. And if we reduce that, we get -1/3 for our slope. So I'm going to put a box around that because we're going to need it later. That's our m. And then now we need a y-intercept, just like before. So the thing is, even though there's no graph, we're going to use the same steps. So to use y-intercept, we're going to use y equals m times x plus b. And we're going to substitute, we're going to use a dot. Only there's not a picture of a dot. They're given to you up here, right in the question. So you can choose either one of these ordered pairs. I'm going to choose this one right here because there's no negatives in it. And I'm going to substitute these numbers in. So instead of y, I'm going to use 3 equals m, which is my -1/3, times, instead of x, I'm going to use 2 plus b. Now, you could have used -4, 5, and as long as you do your math correctly, your answer should come out the same. Okay, so let's multiply this together. Step 2 was to multiply -1/3 times 2 is -2/3. And we're going to write the rest of the equation down. I know I'm overlapping here, but we're not going to use that one for the video anyway. And then if you look back at your notes that we just took, our last step now is to add or subtract because we want to get b alone. So we have -2/3. We want to do the opposite, so we are going to add 2/3 to get rid of it. We also have to add it over here to balance the equation. So 3 plus 2/3 is 3 2/3 equals b. Okay, we have our second piece of information. Now we have everything we need to answer the question. It said to write the equation. So our equation is going to be y equals -1/3 is our slope, x plus 3 2/3. Where our y-intercept? This is what we want. Awesome sauce. So that's the end answer that you're looking for. Okay, I know we're going a little bit fast, so again, if you need extra help, please come and see me either at lunch or before school. The last one we're going to go through on the video is number 5, because this is the last type of problem that we're going to see here in this lesson. So number 5 says a line goes through point 83 and has slope m equal 4. Write the equation that represents the line. Okay, again, there is no graph for number 5, but our steps are still going to be the same. The first thing we did up here, if you remember, is find slope, and that's the first thing we did on the last one as well. So we're going to do it again. Find the slope. Okay, let's read our question. There's not 2 points, but it tells you right out that the slope is 4. Oh, awesome. They did the work for us. So here's our first piece of information already done. So that means we can move on to finding y-intercept now. Okay, so we're going to use the equation again. Y equals m times x plus b. Okay, so that means we need to use a dot. We only have one choice for a dot, 8, 3. It's not a picture of one, but this is x then, and this is y. All right, let's substitute. Instead of y, I'm going to write 3 equals. Instead of m, I will write 4 for my slope, times. Instead of x, I'm going to use 8 plus b. Step 1, done. Step 2 is to simplify or multiply right here. Okay, so now I have 4 times 8, that's 32. And I'm going to bring everything else down. And step 3 now is to add or subtract. In this case, we want to get rid of the 32. The opposite of that is to subtract 32. Okay, so we end up, and I'm going to write mine up over here, 3 minus 32 is negative 29 equals b. Ah, awesome. We have every piece of information we need again. So our equation now is the same format we've been using the entire time. Y equals our slope, 4, times x, plus negative 29, our y-intercept. Now, side note, you could have written y equals 4x minus 29. It means the same thing. Plus, negative, and minus is the same. I would accept either answer from you. And those are the 3 types of problems that you will see here in lesson 21. Again, if you need extra help, please come and see me, and I will do my best to help you out. Have a great day.